Solid seasons from Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha won't stop the Boston Bruins from looking to upgrade at the center position this offseason.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Monday, June 3rd, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And before we get started today, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. And you can find me, my Hockey Thoughts Dad Jokes, at Ian C. McLaren. All right, today we are continuing our look at some core players for the Bruins, how they fared this past season, and what the outlook is moving forward. We've talked about David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, Charlie McAvoy, as well as the goaltending tandem of Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. Those are arguably your core players moving forward, with Ullmark as a bit of a question mark because it's quite possible he could get traded this offseason. I would argue that Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha aren't necessarily part of the core, but they're certainly guys that are integral to the success of this team, especially this past season, as they moved from Patrice, Bergeron, and David Krejci down the middle to a new frontier led by these two centers. But there's room for improvement, and there's certainly room for upgrading and adding a core player at this position. Before we touch on that, let's look at what Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha were able to do this past season. And for Charlie Coyle, it was one of, if not the best season of his career. He played in a full 82 games for the Boston Bruins, recorded a career-high 25 goals, 4 more than what he accomplished 9 years ago with the Minnesota Wild. His 35 assists were 3 short of his career high set in 2016-17 as a member of the Wild. 60 total points, which was 4 clear of his previous career high. So a fantastic season for Coyle. He did only have, 147 shots on goal, second highest of his career. He did have a 17% shooting percentage, which perhaps a bit inflated, but hey, we'll take it. 25 goals, 35 assists, 60 points for Charlie Coyle this season. And we'll discuss this again when we looked at Pavel Zacha, but when you compare his production to, say, that of Patrice Bergeron a season ago, he had Bergeron, that is, 27 goals, 31 assists for 58 points. Charlie Coyle, with more points than Patrice Bergeron was able to record last season. He did have more ice time than Bergeron on average, played more games, but still, when you look at filling that hole, Charlie Coyle did that for sure. Now, you wonder whether or not he can continue with that production, seeing as he is 32 years old. Not exactly entering the prime years of his career. But when you look at the fact that he was able to train for the first time last summer fully, for the first time in 6 years, then you see that perhaps you could have a few seasons of sustained production here. He said he wasn't able to really run or jump in off-season training over the past 5-6 years. This was in an article written on NHL.com by Amelie Benjamin on April 26th. And that ability to train was paramount, was key to his success. Now, he didn't really reveal what he had been dealing with, but last offseason, he said what changed for him was for the last 6 years, he had issues. Last summer was the first where he could do everything, jump, run. He hadn't done that in 5 or 6 years, which is pretty incredible because he had been pretty good for the Bruins over that time. But career season this past year, 60 points, and really stabilized the top 6 in a surprisingly strong season for the Bruins, in which they finished second in the Atlantic Division. A lot of people wrote this team off when it was announced that Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci would not be returning. Would Coyle and Zacha be able to handle the load as 1 and 2 centers for a team that was looking to at least remain in playoff contention? The Bruins performance coach, Kevin Neild, said in that Amelie Benjamin article last offseason, again, really was the first one, certainly in Charlie's time with the Bruins, that he entered the offseason 100% healthy without any significant ailments that they had to work around. So he was able to train, push, and again, it certainly paid off with a career year. Now, in the playoffs, his production dropped a bit. He had 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points in 13 games. Not really the production that they were looking for from one of their top centers. To succeed in the playoffs, you need production down the middle. You look at the 2 teams in the finals, Barkov, Lundell, and then you have McDavid, Draisaitl, obviously, on the Edmonton side of things. Now, Coyle was doing a lot of heavy lifting defensively, trying to contain the Toronto Maple Leafs top guys, Florida's top guys. He did end with a +5 if you're into that kind of stat. Oh, sorry, he was an even 0, 5 points. He had 20 shots. His shooting percentage dropped from 17 in the regular season to 5 in the postseason. Did the Bruins lose because of Charlie Coyle's lack of production? No, but that secondary scoring certainly would have helped. And if they had gotten some production from Coyle and Zacha, those tight games could have gone a different way, which will lead us into the end of today's show, where we'll talk about some potential upgrades. But big picture, Charlie Coyle put in a fantastic season for the Boston Bruins, and a lot of that was due to the fact that he could train fully last season. Yes, the production dipped in the playoffs, but again, he was doing a lot of heavy lifting defensively. What about Pavel Zacha? Well, we will discuss his performance as a member of the Boston Bruins here in 2023-24 coming up as the podcast continues. If you're looking to level up your ride this summer, there's no better place than eBay Motors. They have everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. 122 million parts for your ride. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply, and the eBay Guaranteed Fit is available only to U.S. customers. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. And while you're on YouTube, check out Locked On Sports Today, all the latest news, opinions, and analysis from all over the Locked On universe, free on YouTube and the Amazon Fire TV channels app. Let's turn our attention now to Pavel Zacha, who, along with Charlie Coyle, was called upon to fill some pretty big skates, largely rocking a top 6 center role with the Bruins in the absence of Bergeron and Krejci, guys who had locked down those positions for over a decade and extremely well at that. This season, Pavel Zacha only appeared in 78 games. He matched his goal total from last season, which was a career high 21. He also had 2 more assists than last season in 4 fewer games. So he ended up with 21 goals, 38 assists for 59 points, a career high for him. He also averaged the highest ice time of his career, 18 minutes and 6 seconds, 57 seconds than what he averaged in 2020-2021 as a member of the New Jersey Devils. He also tied a career high in shots, 148, which he managed in 70 games a few years ago at the Devils. He also had a 54.8 success rate in the faceoff circle, which was the best mark of his career. I forgot to mention Charlie Coyle's faceoff proficiency this season. He had a faceoff win record of 51.6, which was the 3rd best mark of his career. In the postseason, his faceoff record was 48%. So that was a big reason why the Bruins struggled as well. If you're losing faceoffs, you're losing puck possession and struggling right from the beginning of those shifts and trying to chase things as well. Speaking of the postseason, Pavel Zacha playing in his 3rd career playoffs. He finally managed to record his first career goal, and it was a huge one in game 6 against the Florida Panthers. Unfortunately, it came in an eventual losing effort, but very well timed there. He also had 5 assists for 6 total points. Now, again, some more goal production from Zacha and Coyle would have gone a long way in the postseason. When it comes to his faceoff mark, he was also on the other end of things, 47.4%. Let's make no mistake, Pavel Zacha has been a huge addition to the Boston Bruins. He was traded straight up for Eric Haula, which, again, still is a real credit to Don Sweeney and his creativity. So much talk about Boston's decision-making at the 2015 entry draft. They ended up with the 6th overall pick from that draft in Zacha. However, there's some questions about whether he is best suited down the middle. And as the series against the Panthers progressed, he found himself on the wing with Morgan Geekie bumped up to center position. You had, I guess in heading into game 6, he was playing on the 3rd line with Justin Brazeau and Danton Heinen. So outside of the top 6, there were also times where he was playing on the wing with Geekie and Pasternak, which begs the question as to whether or not he's able to handle the load when it comes to playing top 6 center for the Bruins in the biggest moments. The Bruins, again, they were playing a formidable team in the Florida Panthers. There's no question that they deserve to be in the Stanley Cup final, a very strong defensive team. So the center pair of Coyle and Zacha doing some heavy lifting defensively to try to stop the opposition, but also flummoxed when it comes to trying to get creative offensively, because the Panthers are a very formidable defensive team. At 5-on-5, when it comes to shot attempt differential, no center for the Bruins was above the 50% mark. No Bruin was above the 50% mark when it came to shot totals. Goal differential, Zacha was on the ice for 8 goals, 6 against. Coyle was even 4-4. So things leveled off a bit there. When it comes to expected goals, Boqvist was the best center for the Bruins in that regard in the playoffs, followed by Trent Frederick, Pavel Zacha, Morgan Geekie, John Peacher, and Charlie Coyle. So all this to say, Coyle and Zacha had fantastic seasons for the Boston Bruins. It was meant to be a bridge year. Both of these guys produced more offensively than Bergeron and Krejci a year ago. Now, of course, those guys were in the final years of their careers, older, certainly, than Coyle and Zacha, perhaps a bit less in the tank than those guys at this point in their careers. But still, the fact that the Bruins were able to replicate and exceed their production in those spots is a testament to how good those guys were this year. And in what was supposed to be a transition year, there was no significant drop off in terms of production and regular season success. Obviously, they weren't going to match the history-making season of last year, but still hanging in the top 2 teams in the Atlantic all season long was due in large part to Coyle and Zacha. Having said that, is there room for improvement? Of course. Could they add at this position? Definitely. You had Geekie playing top line center, as good as he was for the Bruins. That's probably not what you want when you're taking on the Florida Panthers in the playoffs. So will the Bruins be looking to upgrade at center this offseason? We'll discuss that here as the podcast continues. It's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. We're going to have the Dallas Mavericks against the Boston Celtics in the NBA, the Florida Panthers versus the Edmonton Oilers in the NHL, and you can win by jumping on with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. So for game 1 of the NBA Finals, you can bet on the over/under, put $5 down there. If you win, you get $150 to put on bets on the FanDuel app. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. All right, General Manager Don Sweeney has said the Bruins will be aggressive in free agency, and you can be sure that the center position will be an area that will be explored for improvement. There are certainly a lot of players available in free agency. We've heard for months now about Boston's interest in Elias Lindholm, who may or may not re-up with the Vancouver Canucks. We've heard rumblings of the Bruins being interested in Chandler Stevenson with the Vegas Golden Knights. He had a 51-point season, 75 games last season. Other players available as unrestricted free agents include Sean Monahan. He's coming off a 59-point season with Winnipeg, only 29 years old still. Max Domi will be a unrestricted free agent. You have Alexander Wenberg, who went to the conference finals with the New York Rangers. Jack Roslovich. Who else is an unrestricted free agent? You have Steven Stamkos, who hasn't played as much down the middle recently, but still a guy that would be a valuable addition to be sure. The Bruins will have some options. Now, if you look at the players, none of them really jump off the page as guys who are significant upgrades over Coyle and Zacha. The leading free agent center in terms of points is Monahan, who had 59 points. That's right around what Zacha and Coyle were able to achieve. He had the best point per game average as well, 0.71. Stevenson, 0.68. Domi, 0.59. Lindholm, 0.59 as well. What you're really looking at, however, is possibly next offseason when there will be some bigger fish available, including Leon Draisaitl. That's a guy that you want to target. Brock Nelson will be a free agent. John Tavares. Who else? Those are the big guys. Sam Bennett will be a free agent if you're wanting to go that way. There will be some players available, and Leon Draisaitl certainly is the big fish. Now, I kind of joked on the Twitter account for Locked On Bruins yesterday that I was rooting for the Oilers in part so that Leon Draisaitl feels fulfilled with his time in Edmonton and may want to, or maybe more comfortable moving on in free agency next summer. There are rumblings that he's interested in playing for the Bruins. David Pastrnak has entertained the idea as well publicly. What a duo that would be, Draisaitl and Pastrnak. The Bruins have some cap space this year. Cap expected to go up. And they, let's see who else they have coming off the books next season that might even make some more cap space for them to work with. You have, Brad Marchand will be a free agent after next season. Will he make as much as he is at this point? 6.125? Probably not. So that could be some money freed up. Trent Frederick will be a UFA. You're probably going to want to keep him around. Justin Brazeau will be a UFA after next season. But they will have some money to work. Linus Ullmark, if he sticks around, will be coming off the books. So the question is, do you go all in this offseason and commit big money to a guy like Lindholm, who maybe, he'd be a good fit at both ends of the ice, but he's really that much of an upgrade over Coyle and Zacha, and do you want to pay him like $8-9 million? I don't know. Maybe they invest that money elsewhere. Or they, sit on that space, make some shorter term investments, and then free up some real cap space next summer to chase after Draisaitl. Or perhaps they invest it not at the center position this summer and look to a player like Jake Gensel or a winger like Sam Reinhart, who had 57 goals this season for the Panthers. In terms of overall production, your best available UFAs are Reinhart, Stamkos, Gensel, Marchessault, or Matt Duchene. Perhaps you want to look at. These are some guys. You don't want to break the bank, though, because you might have an opportunity to add big next summer. Overall, the Bruins should be happy with what Coyle and Zacha were able to bring to the table. Morgan Geekie stepped in and played well. John Beecher made major strides and should be a mainstay in the lineup. Trent Frederick can play center at times. And, of course, you have young Matt Patra, who will be coming off season-ending shoulder surgery, a year older, hopefully a bit bigger, and a guy who could really make some noise in his second season as a pro. We'll see if they keep Jesper Boqvist, who is a restricted free agent. But the Bruins semi-deep at center, but the level of production they're able to get is limited at this moment, which means Don Sweeney will be looking to upgrade. Could do it this offseason, but really could do it next year if they're willing and able to pursue Leon Draisaitl. That's today's look at Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha. We'll continue some season reviews and bring you all the latest on the black and gold here on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for joining me here today. Happy Monday. Have a great week. Please do take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll talk to you again here tomorrow on Locked On Boston Bruins.